and that more students can get involved. I do know that that program is required for freshmen, and it wasn't required for seniors. And whether or not you believe that a requirement is the right thing or not, I hope that with the students who actually engaged in the program this year, that they can spread the word to other students, and that that might create some buzz and excitement about it as you go into next year. And I also love the Margaret Mead quote that was listed on their deck. So anyway, so thank you.
Good evening. Alexandra Schwartz, 67 Bernard Drive. I hadn't planned on speaking tonight, but I just wanted to comment briefly on the finance item number 24. I try to come to these meetings as often as I can, and I was kind of a little bit actually taken by surprise, despite what Mr. Markarian said. It shouldn't take anyone by surprise, because I felt that the board was still in an exploring kind of phase, and we were not ready yet at this point to spend that much money. I feel like bit by bit, it's almost assuming we've made the decision to move towards that, and we're now, with the report and everything, spending more money towards that. If I remember correctly, we had a presentation, maybe it was last year, where we looked at the benefits of both unit lunch and the block scheduling almost separately. And I think a lot of the costs were associated with moving towards the unit lunch, not necessarily with the block scheduling. Now we're kind of lumping it all together, and suddenly the decision to get to the block scheduling becomes very expensive. And I also know that when the independent consultant was here, Mr. Salmon pointed out some mathematical errors in the back that were part of the analysis, and those hadn't been corrected. So I was just wondering whether once we fix those, does that change any of the recommendations that are in the report? Thank you.
Good evening, ladies. Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Raghavan Halthor, and I'm from 13 Wellington Drive in Baskin Ridge. I'm here to request the school and board support for the National Science Bowl. Just to give you a little background on this, Ridge High has been winning, we have been top 3 finishers in the past 6 years. We have won the State Bowl in 2016 and 2019. This happened because we had a parent volunteered program at William Annin. So these kids, did really well in the middle school, and they progressed in the high school, and they won, as I said, 2 times state champions, and they have been in the top 3 from past 6 years. Now coming back to the middle school where my kids are, we wanted to run this program as a parent volunteered program. And when we speak with Mrs. Hurdock last year, she said, she's going to have some teacher. She wanted to make it as a teacher-run program instead of the parent-run program. And for whatever reason, it fell through and it did not happen. And we have requested the same thing this year, and she's saying the same thing. And our concern is the deadline to apply for this program in state of New Jersey is October 1st. And they allow only 16 teams. It's like it's gone in 10 minutes. If you don't register on October 1st, we cannot participate. It's like, they're going to put us on the wait list. And the thing is, it's going to happen in Princeton. Come January, you go there, you wait. And if someone didn't turn up, and, you get a seat there. We don't want to go through that situation. All I'm requesting is for the board and for the William Annin School, is there a plan to have a teacher? We don't mind, if it's a teacher-run program, it's awesome. We want some kind of commitment from the school so that, our kids can progress and win many more championships like this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else with comments for agenda items?
Hello, Ann Lauritsen from 76 Blackburn Road. Thank you for trying to solve the stress that has crept into our kids' lives. I truly appreciate your efforts on taking on this momentous task. It seems from the way you're talking that block scheduling is almost a done deal, and what you're proposing has many unintended consequences that have the exact opposite effect of reducing stress and increasing instruction time. I've had a student in high school for 11 years and have had the unique situation of having my oldest go to a high school with block scheduling for a full 4 years before my next two came here to Ridge for the next 7 years. I wish from the bottom of my heart that I could tell you that my oldest daughter had any less stress than the next two. There was zero difference in the stress between my 3 children, block scheduling, similar to what you're proposing, and the regular scheduling that's here. I had a supervisor tell me that I just didn't like change, that Ridge's traditional schedule was actually the change. I started with the block scheduling, and soon after being here for just a few months, I loved every bit of the traditional scheduling. Many of you know my kids are involved in band, orchestra, and marching band here at Ridge, but first and foremost, I stand before you as an academic mom, concerned with academics. The block schedule is touted as increasing instruction time. However, for the AP Sciences, it actually represents a 25% reduced instruction time, as Mr. McCrane had mentioned, because years ago, a second class had been added in all of the AP Sciences twice a week as a lab, used for either instruction or for lab. Going to the block scheduling will reduce this instruction time. This will put our AP Science kids at a disadvantage, with most of the country starting school in mid-August. We don't start until after Labor Day, and the AP tests take place the first 2 weeks in May. So unintended consequence is that you want to increase instructional time. You've actually reduced it. Academics. I was fortunate. I was at Accepted Students Day at Georgetown University 2 months ago and was talking to a department head about class offerings. One class was listed as intensive track, and I commented to the department head, "Ooh, that sounds hard. Maybe we should stay away from that one." "Oh, no, it's not any harder than any other class. It just means that it meets every day. That's how students learn the material best, with daily instruction." This has been the gold standard for learning throughout the decades. So why now are we making the change? Block scheduling students will not be seeing their teachers daily. This unintended consequences is magnified with weaker learners needing daily repetition. 60 minutes for a lot of the kids in this building, the 14-year-olds walking in your door from 8th grade, do not have a 60-minute attention span. The majority of your college classes are 50 minutes. Let me tell you what I saw at my kitchen table during homework time in the evening with my older daughter. She's given larger chunks of homework because you're given 3 days. You won't see that teacher again for 2 or 3 days. The larger chunk of homework needs to be navigated by a 14-year-old who's not ready, prepared to do that. It needs to be broken down. You, as an adult, would say, do half today, half tomorrow. That's not what happened. Then there's a trouble with the initial concept when they sit down to do that homework. That large chunk of homework comes to a screeching halt. Stress goes through the roof. At Ridge, I tell my next two, don't worry, send your teacher an email. You'll see the teacher tomorrow. You'll do the homework, tonight's homework, and it'll be all fixed for tomorrow. That doesn't work in block scheduling. You might not see the teacher for 2 or 3 days. And according to your report, the teachers would no longer have dedicated classrooms. Where are the students going to even be finding those teachers? Again, unintended consequences. I know that was not your intention. The amount of work from absence escalates very quickly. If you're absent on a particular day, then you don't see that or would have that class for a couple of days. Your amount of homework escalates just from one single absence. Again, unintended consequence. My personal experience from having done 4 years of block scheduling. Okay. Our current scheduling allows for customization. VOTEC kids, PEC kids, chorus kids, music kids. All of that you will lose that you've been fine-tuning all these years. In February, your expert said his parting words, there is no research to show that this is any better than the traditional scheduling. Both of my kids, at customization and academics, how do they coincide? The vast majority of kids do not schedule to take music or chorus or orchestra as an elective. They take it during their lunch period. My son was able to maintain his high-level academics, taking double AP Science his junior and senior year. My daughter, a language kid, was able to add another language, add what you want. Math kid can add a math, science kid can add another science. It's free exploration of material, and that's what high school is for, allowing them that exploration without having to give up the music. What the spring concert, were any of you guys here at the spring concert? We had a sophomore singing opera, singing Carmen, accompanied by the full symphony, strings and woodwinds. That would all be lost. There would not be any musicians because they are forced to take the academic classes. They would not be able to dedicate 8 semesters of music any longer. What would football games be? What would the pep rally be? What would back to school night with the string ensembles? You all come to the music department and ask for this, that, and the other thing. There won't be left anyone to ask. The towns, the schools, the churches, the principal, the PTO, they all come to the ask to the music department to have them play. Another sad unintentional consequence. There won't be anyone there left to ask. My kids would be sitting in the academic class, not in the music class. Traditional scheduling allows kids to customize and without sacrificing the highest level of academics. My son still does this at University of Rochester. The band director there, it's the very music that keeps them sane. Unintended consequence, you're taking the music out of their life, the very thing that reduces their stress. So, funding, where are all these, sounds like these funds have been earmarked for 7 years to go towards this. Could the funds be used for something else? Where should they be used? Building maintenance? What corners are being cut? Teachers. At the end of the day, I can't tell you if I had block scheduling or traditional scheduling when I was in high school, but what I can tell you are the teachers that stood in front of me and made the impact on me. All the bells and whistles, no offense with the bells and whistles pun there, they don't matter. What matters are the teachers that stand in front of you, and it doesn't matter if the bell rings 5 minutes to 8 or 10 minutes after 8. So thank you, and please, I hope that this is not a done deal. Take it from a mom who's done it for 11 years. It's not the way to go.
Is there anyone else for public comment on agenda items?
Hi, good evening. I'm here to ask a few questions on the National Science Bowl.
Sorry, could you just tell us your name and address, please?
Okay,
Thanks.
Deepa Krishnan, 42 Independence Drive, Baskin Ridge. So sorry, I just came a few minutes late. I wasn't sure if all the points were discussed, so just wanted to keep it in front of the table. Had a few questions on the National Science Bowl. As you know, our district has been winning, continuously for the past 6 years, and want to know what is the next step for the coming school year, because last year it was not offered, and it's parent run for several years, and the school would like any teacher to take as a volunteer and run up, which is very nice thing to do. But we want to know if any such program is in place for this year. And for a district that wins consequently, this program should be offered to the kids. Any teacher should be able to help run the students with this program. So wanted to put that into consideration today to see how we can go about for this coming school year. That's all. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment on agenda items?
Hello, Maureen Fabiano, One Heath Drive. I just want to talk about the block schedule. Both my kids are here in Ridge, and they do like going to classes every day. And my youngest child, who's a great student, said to me she can't imagine sitting in a class more than 50 minutes. And she's a music kid as well, and I would hate to see her have to make a decision between her AP classes and music. So I hope you reconsider going ahead with this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? No, at this point, I'll close public comment on agenda items. You wanna respond to that? Just that maybe-
Okay, so a couple of folks spoke about the National Science Bowl. I'll be happy to follow up with Mrs. Hudak and see what she has in mind going forward. I do know that in the case of a student organization, we would need to have a staff member willing to step up and take that leadership role. The board has historically had a variety of methods by which that takes place. One method is within the actual contract between the teachers and the Board of Education. There are stipended positions for a variety of co-curricular and athletic activities, as I'm sure you're aware. National Science Bowl is not listed among those stipended positions. So currently that's not something that the board contracts with the teachers to provide. In other instances, there have been situations where parents have paid to play, so to speak, where parents have funded a person to run a club or organization. And right now, I'm just not aware of any staff members that are looking to take on that responsibility, but I'll certainly be happy to speak to Mrs. Hudak about it.
Okay, we're up to approval of minutes. There's one item. Would someone like to make a motion? Mrs. Gray and Mrs. White seconded. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the minutes? Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne? Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Abstain?
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Madam President?
Thank you. We're up to finance. There's 24 items. Would someone like to make a motion? Mr. Salmon and Mrs. Gray seconds. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, finance met last week, so I still haven't gotten the minutes out yet. But as for the items that are on the agenda for tonight, 1 through 3 are standing items. 4 and the addendum item are for professional development. 5 is for sale of furniture from the Ridge Cafeteria, which will be replaced. 6 is the sale of Chromebooks. 7 is 2020 federal grants from the Every Student Succeeds Act. 8 is IDEA monies for 2020. 9 through 14 are student services. 15 on here. Hold on. Oh, yeah, 15 is student services too. Yeah. 16 is a approval of a settlement. 17 is renewal of 17 and 18 are renewal of the Aramore contracts for custodial services and food service. 19 and 20 are resolutions to supplement our capital and maintenance reserve accounts. 21 is approval of the contract with Horizon Healthcare Services for stop-loss insurance coverage. 22 is approval of contract with Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield for administrative services. And 23 is withdrawal of funds to cover costs of the WAMS HVAC project. And 24 was addressed by Mr. Markarian.
Does anyone have any questions about the items? No? Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Madam President?
Thank you. We're up to personnel. There are 32 items. There's an addendum page. Would someone like to make a motion? Mrs. Gray and Mrs. White seconded. Did anyone have any questions about those items? There's a lot of pages. Appointing everybody for next year. So, okay, if there's no questions, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne? Yes. Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Madam President?
Thank you. We're up to policy. There are 3 items. Would someone like to make a motion? Mr. Salmon and Ms. Schaefer? You want to go ahead? Sure. Okay, go ahead.
The May meeting. So we have the first reading for the, it's Policy and Regulation 1642. It's the Earned Sick Leave Law. It's new. It's a law passed by our wonderful government in New Jersey. And Mr. Crude had said it in our meeting, the policy would help clarify the law as it applies to our school district. Sick leave is already provided to our steadily employed employees under a separate law, so it doesn't apply to them. Under the new law, sick leave must be provided to all who don't fall under the category of steadily employed. And Strauss Esme, who helps us with our policies, also left options available within the policy and regulation that need to be decided by the district. In the policy, in the policy was decided that we're not going to give any sick leave up front. Accrued sick days can be used 120 days after commencing employment, and we would not permit the accrual of more than 40 hours of sick leave. In the regulation, there's a provision of earned sick leave. We're not going to provide sick days ahead of accrued time, and the employee will not accrue more than 40 hours of sick leave. And they can use their sick days 120 days after commencing employment. The employer can choose the increments of the employee may use for sick leave. It must be a full day. We decided a full day for that one. And then the permitted use of sick leave, the employer will require advance notice of sick day use if employee knows ahead of time. Okay, so that's that. Oh, and then we have to pick option 2. The employer will pay for unused sick days. The employee can choose whether to accept payments. All right, so and the next one is the regulation 5530, substance abuse, and was revised. Ms. Smith reviewed the policy with the counseling staff and the SACs. In reading through the changes regarding the new reporting system, right now it's the Student Safety Data System, SSDS. And Mr. Markarian noticed some other small differences with our policy and wanted the counseling department to review and recommend if any changes to our policy would be prudent or necessary. And I think that was all good. Regulation 5600 is Student Code of Conduct regarding PDA, if everyone knows what that is, I'm pretty sure. And the principals were looking over the language of the regulation, and we want to put in definitive language into the regulation addressing public displays of affection in school. It will also be added to the Student Code of Conduct handbook, and is still being refined. As far as the policy and regulations 9150, which is school visitors, it says the council is reviewing the policy to ensure it can be enforced equally among all different student groups in the district regarding classroom visitors and visits. In light of the importance of student privacy and school security concerns, the following was added to the policy and regulation. All visitors are required to report to a location designated by the principal upon entering the building. And visitors may not photograph, videotape, or record staff and/or students without the principal's permission. Also, the lobby guard is, which is now being tested at Ridge High School, is a licensed scanning device that the district we're piloting at Ridge right now with the hopes of installing the device permanently in the fall of 2019. The lobby guard can scan a driver's license to make sure visitors have no offenses that would prohibit them access to a school building. Parents will have access to the school, but will be escorted if it's the license shows that they couldn't come into the school. Other visitors would not be permitted to enter at all. This is an extra layer of safety for the students, teachers, and administrators of the school. It says language was added to address the ID scanners will be handled when a school is so equipped. So once we are permanently using them, we'll put more language in regarding them. Okay, regulation 2624 is the grading system, and regulation 2330 is homework. And this was, I think we went over this before, but this is the test return policy language and homework policy language were reviewed and accepted at all levels. The policy would not be enacted, they'll be enacted in September 2019. And for the second reading, that was all first reading stuff. In the second reading, we have the policy 2422, it's health and physical education, it's revised. It was just, the policy was amended to clarify that health and PE has to cover 150 minutes of time, excluding any recess time. And in the elementary schools, I think I read this already before, but there are two specials of 50 minutes each. The classroom teachers teach 50 minutes of health. And then the policy also memorializes a new law specifying that there must be 20 minutes of recess a day for children in K through 5. All right, so that's the one. And then we have some first reading from June. So this is where we have the first reading for the calendar. So this is going to be super fun. Nick, would you like to do this? Because I might confuse people. I could read it out and then you can correct me if.
I mean, you can just explain, like, while he's finding it, why we revised it because of the contract
Because the
that we
contract
just
was
negotiated.
revised to have 180 days scheduled for school.
Right.
So we had to make some modifications to the
Calendars, if you wanna do
2019,
that.
2020. We're just doing that one because that's coming up quick.
Right.
So we added 2 additional days as days off. The Wednesday, February 19th, which will be part of the winter break because we have the Tuesday already. We have the Monday, Tuesday, then we add in the Wednesday. And the Tuesday, May 26th, which is part of Memorial Day weekend. And so the following days we use to make up snow days in the event of school closure. And they would be used in this order. They would use, which first would take the Wednesday, February 19th, which is part of the winter break. The second day we would use, if we needed to, would be Tuesday, February 18th, which is also part of the winter break. And then the third day, if we needed it, would be Tuesday, May 26th, which was that extra day we added for Memorial Day weekend. The makeup days that, if we have to use them, will be full days of school. They won't be abbreviated. And then any additional snow days that we have to add will be tacked on to the end of school after graduation. And those, I don't know if we talked about those will be full days or half days, but probably, I don't know. But that's what, and if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, no, I think you did a very good job. It's you know, the norm that we tweaked a little bit was that in the past we scheduled 183 days of school, and we built in the 3 snow days. And then typically we would often use all 3 snow days. We would maybe only use 2 snow days. We would typically have 180 school days, maybe 181 on a year where we only used a couple snow days. So the calendar change is to basically plan for 180 school days. It adds the days back as vacation days.
Right.
Instead of starting with them planned as school days, you start with the days planned as vacation days. And then if you have to use snow days, you start taking away the vacation days. But we stuck to our commitment that we've made of late, which is not to take days from the spring recess period, but instead, as you very accurately described, we would take the days from the February weekend, the winter February recess, starting with Wednesday the 19th, then Tuesday the 18th, and then the third day being in May. I did share the proposed calendar with some folks that gave me some feedback from the Teachers Association as we always share the calendar with them and ask them their thoughts. Their thought was, the possibility of March snow being after our chance to make up days in February. We deal with that now, and as you pointed out, that would result potentially in days being added to the end of the school year.
Right.
So that's some of the trade-off by basically the fact that, come springtime, there's not a lot of days unless you go into spring break. So
Well,
since we're kind of committed to, we are committed to not going into spring break, that causes us to put them at the end of the year. So you actually described it extremely accurately. Nice
Thank
job.
you. Very proud of myself. That was good.
Does anyone have any questions about the policy items?
The calendar? I'm not done yet. Just want to let you know that.
Who?
She has more.
Oh, I have
Oh,
more.
okay.
I have more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay, keep going.
come on, I got more. So
We got
fun.
through the ones on here that were done.
Policies, we're like, we work very hard at policy.
She's got to do
Okay.
June now.
So we have three more, that's for first reading. We have the, this is from June, I'm in June now. Policy 5120, which is the assignment of pupils and parent requirement to transport the child. So if a pupil shall attend the K through 5 school located in the attendance area of their residence, which everyone knows, but if parents will be required to provide transportation to school, we provide their child's transportation to school if they move within the district to a different school attendance area. And if their student remains at the original school, the parents are obligated to transport their children to that school. In policy 2430, which is co-curricular activities, the board will not permit students who reside in the district but are not enrolled in school to participate in any co-curricular activities. So if you're not enrolled in the school but you live in the district, you can't participate in any of our stuff. And in policy 9270, it's homeschooling and equivalent education outside the schools. Parents who choose to homeschool their children, enroll their children in private school, or choose any other type of non-public education may not simultaneously enroll their children in or receive services from the Berners Township School District. And then we have policy 2361, which is, oh wait, did we have that one or am I? All right, the acceptable use of computer networks, computers, and resources. The acceptable use policy form has been updated and renamed, oh, that's right, the responsible use policy, or RUP. It should be signed by the pupil and his or her parents or guardian. The pupil's submission of the RUP may occur through the electronic means of the student information system, which is going to be Genesis, right? The RUP still applies to all acceptable use policies and regulations. It just added language about being a responsible digital citizen and went into really good explanation of what it means, and it was, they added a lot of language, they updated it so that it was more appropriate to how kids use their stuff today. Okay, now I'm done. Yes?
So I was wondering if the committee discussed at all considering one of those additional give back snow days, or the reverse situation, being the Thursday before Memorial Day. There were a number of districts that, when we looked at this last year, were using the day before what our current calendar is, and then the possible day before and the possible day after as a means to address what you heard some concerns about.
So I actually don't, I don't remember. We might have talked a little bit about that Thursday. I think it did come up in the conversation. We knew we had to do 2 days to make the calendar work. It was scheduled at 182 days because you might remember that December date that we already tweaked. So we were scheduled at 182, which meant that we had to take 2 school days and convert them to 2 days that school was closed in order to get to the 180 per the contract that we just negotiated and ratified tonight. Yay. So the 2 days were, one was designated in February, one was designated in May. I think the concept was kind of a one-and-one thing, but you know, the point you make is valid. It is a concern. And certainly we could talk about it, and this is just the first reading.
I think
so.
I personally was focused on maybe making February a little longer in case we don't have to use, because people have said they wish the February break was longer.
And I'm going to throw out the flip side, which
yeah.
is that the Tuesday after Memorial Day weekend extends the length of time many seniors may be absent from school, given when the prom is scheduled.
Yeah, but it's not scheduled, I don't think. Next year, they couldn't schedule it for that.
No, what I'm saying is that traditionally, this year notwithstanding, kids had the prom the Friday before the Friday of Memorial Day weekend, and then they didn't show up for school, a lot of them, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Am I right, Georgianne? So what I'm saying is if you build in the Thursday, pardon me for smacking that, then at least, like, if we have the Tuesday and that's the day that we don't come to school. Now it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
For what, for the prom?
Well, because the kids won't have
the
to
prom's
come to
not that
school.
weekend.
Senior cut week
I
turning
know,
into
but is she
Memorial Day.
saying move it Tuesday to Friday, or move the February day to?
Are you talking about
Well,
I didn't think the prom was that
honestly,
weekend.
I was initially thinking, could the Tuesday be Thursday? But then you said that there was feedback from some folks indicating that there was the question of March being our
Right.
difficult month.
Right.
So I guess either is a possible. I just wondered what the discussion was because I wasn't part of
I
the
think we were just kind of
committee.
like spreading it out so that you'd have it extra.
Yeah, and
I think a lot of places have Tuesday because Memorial Day is like the holiday, so to extend it and you don't have to rush home, from Memorial Day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But we did talk about the kind of winter break.
Right.
Right? Because that came up when we canceled spring break, that people were like, well, we used to have the winter break, and then we had spring break, and now we have nothing. So I think that the idea was, if we could give some modicum of a winter break before spring break, because that's a long haul, I guess, between, kind of Christmas, New Year's up until April.
And sometimes sports are a little bit, it's quieter at that time.
Right, it's before, I guess,
Before,
spring
like,
sports
really
really
starts,
ramp up,
and then-
right?
And then Memorial Day,
There's trade-offs. We
there's
talked
trade-offs
about
for everything.
adding a random day in March because there are no vacation days in March, but, it was
Right,
sort
we
of,
did.
Who wants that?
a lot of trade-offs.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I think the only question maybe would be to look at that Wednesday, the 19th of February, and do you want to move that to the Thursday before,
We could do that.
Thursday, what is that, Thursday, the 21st of May? That makes for a 1, 2, 3, 4 day, 5, 6 day weekend for Memorial Day, right?
It
So,
does, but-
that's long, but it does give you the
It's hard to
opportunity
come
to have
back
another
after
day
that
in the
weekend as
spring
it is.
to make up a snow day,
Agreed.
So,
And I don't know if that's
trade-offs.
there were two thoughts that I had. One is it extends the number of days that the kids don't have to, the
Right.
seniors will likely
If they're
not
gonna
show
be
up to
skipping,
school.
right.
Why aren't they, wait, I'm confused
And then
about
it
that.
also,
Why are they showing up for school?
there's teachers who come to school to teach seniors who probably have fairly empty classrooms. I don't think we have any in the room, but so it's one more day of that. If
4 days? They'd be
On the
skipping
flip
4 days.
side, if we add in a day of instruction in February, making up a snow day, that is before APs, it's before any, real learning is still going on.
Right.
After Memorial Day, well, it's a little harder to
But I
get.
didn't think the prom was scheduled for that weekend.
It's not.
which is kind of what I was thinking, because traditionally, the prom has been the Friday, the full week before Memorial Day. And then the seniors, and I have 3 older ones
Oh,
who
the
went
full
through
week
this, they don't
before.
come to school Monday. Monday's a
No,
senior
they don't
cut
come,
day.
oh, that's
And
a
then
that's a
Tuesday,
different issue. We
Wednesday,
can do another
Thursday, if
policy
they
for
haven't
that.
had their,
But I don't
they
wanna
have
get in
enough
trouble.
PE, days to give up, then if they're in PE, then they,
Make a week of it.
A week
yeah,
off of
make
school
a
is not
week of it,
appropriate.
apparently.
Oh, okay, I was getting confused with it,
Right,
because you're talking about the whole week before.
right. Assuming that it
First
wasn't
of all,
a
there is
day
no
of
senior,
school.
there is no senior cut week, FYI.
There's no
there
senior
is
cut
none.
anything.
The other thing is, you look at this year as a perfect example. We tried to come up with a calendar for this year to address the fact that we missed all those days the previous year in March.
Right.
And then we didn't miss the days. And then everybody was like, are you going to give me the days back? Are you going to? We're never going to be able to predict what the weather, so,
Al Roker can't even predict
Yeah.
that, so.
Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have 3. I'm going to do one at a time. The physical education, if you're on a sports team, does the physical education requirement get waived?
If you're on a sports team, you
You
can
do
do
option
option
two at the high
2.
school.
Right, at the high school, then you don't have to go to PE while you're playing your
Okay,
sport in
That's
those marking
question 1.
periods.
Question 2, the testing, I have a problem with not being able to get your tests back. And I think this requirement is optional, that the teacher does not have to, can collect the tests after you've taken them, and you review whether you got it correct or not, and doesn't have to give it back to the student. I have a problem with that.
They're allowed to see it, they just can't take it home.
What's that item? Because I'm going to vote no on that. Can I just say it's, Can I
It's
just
first
say-
reading.
Well, I'm gonna vote no on test. Because
26, 24.
I think you have to be able to get your test back.
So
If
that's
you-
2624 you want to vote no on.
2624, good, that's a no. Now, co-curricular activities. I have a problem if a student lives in town and goes to another school. What is a co-curricular activity?
Clubs and sports.
And now, sports, when you're saying a sports team, or could they go out for, summer or something or other?
If
So
it's
it's
through the, if
school-sponsored.
it's school-sponsored, if it's
So
like
it-
through the rec department or it's a camp in the
So if-
summer, that's
If it's
different.
the baseball
Yeah.
team or something like that, you can't, okay, fine, I understand. Okay, those are my three.
Any other questions before we vote? No? Okay. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes on everything but 26, 24, and that's a no.
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes?
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Mrs. White,
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Korn,
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge,
Yes.
Mrs. McCune,
Yes.
Madam President.
Thank you. We're up to curriculum. There are, how many items? 3. Oh, just one item. Would someone like to make a motion? Mrs. Wooldridge and Mrs. Richmond. Okay. Did you want to give a report?
Curriculum Committee met this past Friday, June 7th. The first item was some new course names. Some course names are being changed to comply with the law. The mandate requires that special education students are not identified through the record or by the grading system. The school district is compliant with the grading system, however, the course names that include replacement in the title indicate that the students who are enrolled have an IEP, so those are being renamed appropriately. The next item was some new textbook approvals. The AP US Government and Politics, which was changed last year, well, the year before last, is adopting a new textbook, American Government, Stories of a Nation. Introduction to Psychology is a new unweighted dual enrollment course for which students will earn 3 credits at Raritan Valley Community College. And the textbook for that new course is Psychology in Your Life, and it is mandated by RVCC, so we have no choice in its selection. And then the third course getting a new textbook is AP Spanish Language and Culture. The next item was AP course training. The College Board has made significant changes to a number of AP courses. This necessitates some teacher training. The AP Lang and AP Lit courses underwent some of the most significant changes, so the administration was able to arrange for 2 AP trainers to come to our district and train 6 of our teachers. To offset the costs, we are opening the training up to teachers around the state. In a Quest program update, that's the new Gifted and Talented program at the elementary level. Teachers continue to work on the new identification process. Students in grade 3 and 4 took the verbal section of the COGAT the week prior to our meeting. Ms. Fox explained that the new process is quite daunting and there is considerable data being gathered to consider. Staff continue to evaluate the data. All students who were nominated for Quest will be notified as to the areas in which they qualified. Parents of all current Quest nominated, third grade students were sent letters indicating whether or not they qualified to take the on-ramp assessment. This may have caused some confusion for parents if they had not submitted the form requesting consideration for on-ramping into 4th grade accelerated math. The letter was sent because in the initial letter sent requesting parent nominations, we indicated that all students nominated for Quest would be considered for on-ramping. Therefore, we wanted to be sure all parents were notified about whether their child qualified to take the on-ramp assessment. I know that was really confusing. If you happen to get a letter, you probably understand why that explanation is included. In the next item, we discussed math enrollment. Ms. Bowman reported that the numbers are not final yet. She did share that there are 59 students eligible for 7th grade algebra for 2019-20 at the time of the meeting. 45 were from the accelerated math class and accelerated math 6 class and are moving on because they earned a B grade or higher in the accelerated math 6 course. 14 additional students are from math 6 and qualified based on the entrance criteria. With regard to the middle school math placement, the new teacher recommendation process seems to have been a great success, so they were pleased to have had that in place. Ms. Fox and Ms. Bowman confirmed that the switch from Aspen to Genesis will not cause difficulty with following the data for the students that are on this path. So as they move from one student information system to the other, all of the data that's being tracked relative to this group will be intact. In the next item, summer curriculum writing, Ms. Fox shared the list of the summer curriculum projects. There's quite a few. I'm not going to read them to you, but there were two that were discussed briefly. One is called Vocabulary Squad. Mrs. Hudak set a building goal at William N. to focus on vocabulary instruction. The intention is to help students understand the words they encounter in text or in speech in all content areas, not just in English language arts. This summer, the focus will be on working with social studies teachers to develop strategies to use context clues to figure out the meaning of unfamiliar words. And this work will continue over time through all content areas. The other item that had some discussion was handwriting without tears. Our preschool classes are already following this widely used program that employs a multisensory approach to handwriting. The work this summer will focus specifically on collaboration between our teachers and our occupational therapists, with the end goal being to introduce the program to our kindergarten classes for 2021, and to eventually step up the program through 2nd grade. There are also plans to articulate this message to area preschools. The next item was a Genesis update. The first part was about elementary school report cards. In anticipation of the implementation of Genesis, Ms. Fox shared the draft template of the new version of the elementary standards-based report card. The new report card template has been reformatted. Approaches to learning and attendance have been moved to the top because they are considered fundamental. The draft also offers a reordering of the traditional information on the report card. Attendance has been moved to the top so as not to be viewed as an afterthought. Consideration is being given to alphabetizing the subject areas so as to equalize the importance of all subjects. The proposal is still in discussions, as is the manner and level of detail in which the comments will be reported. The final version of the report card will be shared in the fall. Next year, all elementary grades will go to the trimester report card cycle. In 4th and 5th grade, students will continue to receive letter grades. Next year, the Elementary Curriculum Committee will begin the rewrite of the 4th grade report card. And then in the other part of the Genesis update, Ms. Smith shared some information on the scheduling at Ridge High School. The committee building the master schedule in Genesis has reported that it's been a dream, which is really exciting news if you remember last year's reports about Aspen. Class sections are secure with teachers and rooms, and the schedule is built in a way that is optimal for student requests. Supervisors will review and potentially tweak as needed. Science is a more manual process, and that has yet to have been scheduled. The administration reports that the support from the Genesis people has been fantastic during the transition. As the administration looks ahead to the likelihood of a new master schedule, they have made an effort to schedule as many students who have requested music as possible into the traditional 6th period music section. There was a discussion about the options we have on this issue as it relates to several topics. The district's efforts to address students' social emotional well-being, consideration of the new master schedule, and working with the new student information system for development of the master schedule. The next item was health. A K-12 health program evaluation is scheduled for this summer, or I guess is underway, and will continue this summer. The past week, the teachers experienced a full-day training on skill-based instruction in health education. This program is being explored for possible consideration for a future rewrite of our health program. The concept aligns very well with our efforts in SEL and character education. The program organizes the content around decision-making and problem-solving, and then the topics are embedded within the skills. 6th through 12th grade students would revisit the same skills with all the health topics. Also embedded in the training is discussion about how teachers develop a safe classroom environment for discussing sensitive and sometimes controversial topics. The emphasis on the skills is central because it creates common language across grade levels. This change can eventually be carried through the entire K-12 curriculum. The hope is that next year a few teachers at the elementary and middle schools may be willing to pilot the program. Ms. Fox shared that at Ridge High School, the summer assignments are posted, they are posted if you log into your Aspen portal, but additionally, all links are included in the Ridge High School Friday message from Mr. Kraus, and will continue to appear there throughout the end of the school year. Ms. Fox and Ms. Smith gave an update on the new Bernards Township Schools Connect, which was mentioned at the last curriculum meeting as well. This work will continue through the summer and be formally presented in the fall. One of the areas they have been focusing on is how to relaunch the concept of the district curriculum committee, but with a more broad scope. This effort would focus on strand 4 of the strategic plan results. This committee would serve as a channel for gathering input from all stakeholders as the administration works to implement goals of the strategic plan. One goal in specific is the Goal 1.3b, which is to investigate policies and logistics that impact student and staff wellness and social emotional competencies. The committee spent some time discussing how the Communications Council piece of Bernards Township Schools Connect might be structured and possible meeting times and spacing. The proposal is for the council to meet quarterly. The challenge is determining a day and a time that works best for all parties. Modeling it after the former district curriculum committee, the proposed time is 3:45 to 5:15 in the afternoon. As mentioned in the May minutes, the council will be comprised of all stakeholders, administrators, teachers, board members, students, and parents. As of now, the thought is that the council may meet on Tuesday afternoons. When details are finalized, the full proposal will be presented to the Board of Education at a public meeting. There was a brief discussion about answer keys that are provided to students in math and science. We were fortunate to have the math and science supervisors at the meeting. The discussion centered around the frustration that exists sometimes with students receiving an answer key that has strictly an answer and no work to explain how you arrive at that answer. Both Ms. Bowman and Mr. Misiak shared that there are sometimes reasons why an answer key deliberately does not include the work, but they said that they would take it back to their teachers and that we would hear more about it at a future meeting. The next topic was AP Seminar and Research, the capstone course. The teachers have been meeting with teachers from several other districts that offer these courses. The meetings have been helpful in bringing attention to some important topics for discussion. Staff are developing a plan for how to address the need for outside mentors. Parameters will have to be set for allowable use of outside experts. An institutional review board, or IRB, will likely need to be created. Typically, such a board includes an administrator, a student assistance counselor, and a teacher. The details will be finalized this summer. The next item was the senior internship program. Mr. Brum this morning actually hosted a presentation and debrief on the Ridge High School senior internship pilot, which took place over the past 4 weeks. I attended it, so did Mrs. McCune, and it was really fabulous. The kids really, and there were 14 kids there, and they really enjoyed the experiences they had with the senior internship programs at various, including the school district. Mr. Blender had 2 students, but so did the township host an intern, and then various businesses throughout our area, and one all the way from Clifton. And the kids really reported it being a very positive experience. So hopefully we'll hear lots more about that next year. And our next meeting is in September.
Does anyone have any questions?
When I was reading it, I was just, the kindergarten, that handwriting thing, that's just printing, yeah? It's not script?
Right. No,
Like, I was like, wait,
it's
are
about
they bringing
learning,
the script back
it's
in
about learning to
kindergarten?
write.
Oh, it's learning to like your letters
Yeah,
and.
so hold your pencil right and
Yeah,
like,
it's
pencil.
the
So it's like a-
process of learning
so
to
learning how
write.
to write the letters the right way.
Okay, I just was, I just was making sure that it wasn't.
Script and shorthand, we're doing it all.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that was clear.
So I guess we have to vote on the one agenda item. So can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne,
Yes?
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Mrs. White,
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Korn,
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge,
Yes.
Mrs. McCune,
Yes,
Madam President.
thank you. We're up to the advocacy committee.
Advocacy kind of was a twofold for the last time because we had a makeup. So on Friday, May 31st, advocacy met with the 4th and 5th grade members of Student Council at Mount Prospect. And this was a rescheduled session that had been snowed out on a previous date. They shared with us why they wanted to be on student council and how they were elected. Each class votes for a boy and a girl. They explained that the student council's responsibility is to be a role model for Panther Pride, which stands for positive, respectful, integrity, determination, and empathy. Some of their responsibilities include acting as morning greeters, holding monthly meetings, and then reporting back to their classes, determining spirit days, and helping to support the community. We asked the students what their favorite things about Mount Prospect are, and they responded with quite an array, such as Teen Time, which you may recall we had a presentation on previously, International Day, their color run, their glow dance, the after-school activities like Girls on the Run, mini units, the walking program, and field day. As it's Mount Prospect's 20th anniversary, for any of you who have been in the building, they have tiles in their hallways that have been there since 2009. And now they are going to be making new tiles in the art room that are placed on the opposite wall. And the kids are very excited about this project. We also asked what are some things that they want or wish for at Mount Prospect. They suggested swings, more basketball hoops, open gym to play with kids in different grades, and air conditioning in the gym. There was a request for some changes in the cafeteria food options, such as a larger variety of fruits and vegetables and additional vegetarian options daily. Students did a wonderful job presenting the information to us, and we really enjoyed hearing from this last group of students this year. The second part is advocacy had its last meeting of the school year on June 3rd. Both returning and new PTO presidents were invited to attend the meeting. We thanked everyone for all that they do at their individual schools throughout the year and gave special thanks to exiting presidents. All PTO presidents introduced their new members, and we asked that current PTO presidents send contact information for any new president to Christina Hendricks, as she'll be putting together the 1920 school year contact list. We reminded everyone to send any dates about PTO meetings and events for the coming year to Mr. Markarian so they can be added to a master calendar in the hopes of avoiding conflicts. We briefly discussed again the idea of schools combining meetings to try and improve attendance, and the elementary presidents will be meeting separately to discuss this and plan accordingly. We shared the process of elections, which takes place this fall. In case anyone might be interested in running, they need to be aware that the filing date is July 29th. For the Board of Education, yes. Then Mr. Markarian gave the superintendent's report. At the time of our meeting, there was no new information that had been shared by the state about graduation requirements for beyond 2020. I have a feeling that that has since changed. A new system, Genesis, is replacing Aspen that replaced eSchool. And we discussed that the biggest challenge of Aspen was that not many schools in Jersey used it, and it didn't work well with our needs. But Genesis is a New Jersey-based, and many schools are using it. So communication will go out this month of exactly when Aspen will end and Genesis will begin. And parents will be reminded to print out any information that they might need for Aspen, such as report cards, because during that transition, there may be a period of time that they cannot access this information. But please know also, while you might not be able to access it, if there's something that you need, you can certainly contact the schools and they'll be able to get that information to you. Also, Google accounts, this is especially important for seniors, and this has already gone out in an email, and I think it came out again today. Information is being sent home to seniors about when they're going to lose access to the Berners-Bow account, and I think I read July 15th. And instructions will be provided for them for transferring any desired documents that they have in their Google account, how they can export it to another account that they might have. Mr. Markarian is also trying to come up with a way to streamline the process for PTO presidents to get approval of events. A form of agreement is being created, so when a vendor or presenter comes to a Berners Township school, there's a standard form to be completed. It costs money to have all contracts reviewed, so streamlining might cut down on cost and as well ensure safety for all students. In addition, he asked that PTO presidents give their principal event information to pass on to him in order to get board resolutions on the agenda, and then this way the events will go on the calendar. Then a couple questions were asked. A question was asked about whether PTO presidents are required to go through Dan Regan, who is our insurance contact, to get extra insurance when they need it for an event. And while they're certainly able to go to a different insurance company, it's probably most convenient and efficient to use the districts, because if you go to an outside insurance firm, the contract will still need to be reviewed by our contact person. And then the last question was for PTO presidents. They asked, when do exterior items get on the budget rather than PTO's fundraising or paying for repairs? And an example was if bricks in a courtyard are missing or broken or need to be replaced. And Mr. Markarian explained that all principals have budgets, and they can use to opt their budget for these type of items. However, if a principal does not put that request in based on his budget, then it most likely will not be scheduled. And after saying goodbye to everyone, we will not be meeting until September.
Does anyone have any questions?
I just have a quick comment. You and I both saw this morning when we were in the school, there are big posters on the walls for the seniors to see about the Google account, so they're doing their best to communicate it in lots of different ways.
Okay, SEL committee, I think, is going to be meeting, right?
I'm sorry?
The SEL is scheduled?
Yeah, we postponed
Okay.
Thursday's morning meeting to
Okay.
July 11th
Okay.
from 8 to 10 now.
Okay.
And thank you to all the committee members for being available for that.
Are there any liaison reports? No. Okay, we're up to public comment on non-agenda items. If you come up, could you please tell us your name and address and sign in afterwards on the clipboard?
Hello. My name is Timothy Kramer. I live on 84 Liberty Corner Road, and I'm going into 8th grade. And I was thinking about ways to reduce stress for students, and I think that one of the most stressful parts of going to school is waking up in the morning. And this also gets added on to having to get up and get on the buses, and sometimes you have to wait in school for sometimes 30 minutes when your bus drops you off. And I just feel like that's unnecessary time. So I feel like we could maybe shorten that time and also push school days back a little bit more to make it so we have more time to wake up in the morning so that we can be a lot more stressed when we go to school.
I'm Heather Watson Kramer, 84 Liberty Corner Road, Far Hills, Tim's mom. I just wanted to say two things. One, I would like to thank everybody for preserving spring break. I've lived in Basking Ridge for 38 years, and we used to have a full week in February and then a full week in April, and it was really miserable a couple years ago when we basically lost all vacations. So thank you for preserving spring break. I would like to ask that maybe the board try and come up with rules of sports in the high school practicing during spring break. For a lot of students at Ridge High School, sports practices are mandatory during spring break. I was hoping that maybe we could try and figure out a way to at least give the kids a long weekend during spring break, that maybe they could actually get out of town, you know, change of scenery, different walls. It's very relaxing, especially for moms when you can't go anywhere during softball season. So the softball teams worked hard to do that this year. They actually gave us a couple days off, but we didn't know about it until basically Thursday before spring break. It would have been nice to know about that a couple of weeks ahead, and maybe we could have actually gone somewhere a little more exciting than just down the road. So I don't know if I made that clear, but you know, if it rained, games would be rescheduled, is my point. So why can't we try and reschedule maybe games for the Monday, Tuesday of the beginning of spring break and give kids 3 or 4 days off from school and let them go and, you know, have time with family. Time with family is so critical. You know, we think about it, and these kids, before we know it, are going off to college, and then, you know, you don't have the same spring breaks as your younger children and things like that. So if there was a way just to give us 2 or 3 days together as a family to be able to get out of town, I think it would be fantastic. And then my second issue I would like to bring to the board is class size. At Liberty Corner School, my daughter is in 4th grade, and there are 26 students in her classroom. As a former teacher, I can tell you that 26 kids in a classroom is a lot of bodies, a lot of, you know, backpacks, desks, chairs. It's crowded, it's hard to get around, and it's definitely hard for the teachers to give the attention to the students that need it. You know, I feel a lot of the average students are getting lost in the shuffle. The lower end students are getting, you know, either in-class support or pull out here and there, and the high-end kids might be getting extra math from the gifted and talented program, but there's a whole group of kids in the middle there that when there's 25, 26 kids in a class are being left behind. So I would like to possibly ask, is there a way that we can get a fifth grade for these kids? This is a huge class. They've been a huge class for years, and they're still going to be a huge class in 5th grade, and I think they deserve a little bit more room in a classroom, a little bit more attention from the teachers, and that would mean adding a 5th grade. So thank you, and thank you so much for all of your time that you do here on the board.
Georgiana Perrell, 51 Riverside Drive. I'm a resident, but I also have worked in the district for the past 19 years as the attendance person. So just a little bit of background, a little bit of experience. With the proposed calendar, I really think that we should be looking at the Monday after Easter as our second day. If we're putting both snow days right back to back in February, there's a lot that can happen from the end of February through March. And, you know, you could potentially have a couple of snow days there, and now we're talking about the end of the school year, adding it on. If we're making that long weekend, people are going to take it, whether or not you use those snow days. Once they see it on the calendar, they're going to use them. I could tell you for a fact. People aren't going to come whether or not you take those snow days away. So I really think that if we did the Monday after Easter, I think a lot of families would probably appreciate that. People travel on Easter and would really like to have that extra day off, and I think it spreads it out more evenly on the calendar. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? Okay, so I'll close public comment. I'm going to respond to one or two of them, and then maybe Mr. Markarian will respond to one or two. So first, I'd like to thank you, Timothy, for coming out. We always like to hear students' perspectives, so we get excited when students come, especially when they sit through a really long meeting, to come talk to us. So thank you, and I share your sentiment about the getting up in the morning. It's kind of hard in our house, too. Unfortunately, with bus routes, there's always someone that has to be the first one on the bus and someone's the last one on the bus, and then someone gets, some bus runs have to get to school earlier than other ones the way that they work out. So I'm sure every year we look at the bus routes. If your bus is one of the ones getting to school really early, maybe let us know which bus and we'll look and see what the deal is with that. But it's very hard, because the buses are all, going all over town. So we certainly do look at the bus routes every year to see if there's ones that are, on a weird schedule. So let us know if it's really getting to school that early. We can see what the deal is. And what was the other one I wanted to, there's one other one. You could do the Liberty Corner. Go ahead.
Sure. So I know you were just asking about the 5th grade at Liberty Corner. Dr. Oliver and I just met about that last week, and we talked about a plan to try to make that happen. So hopefully we'll see that in the fall.
Supposed to engage in a back and forth, but you can talk to us after or email us. Okay, well, send us the details about the bus route and we'll see what the deal is. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're up to board forum. On there is the board self-evaluation, which I'm going to give out. This is something that the boards do, sort of like we have to look at ourselves and say, what kind of job are we doing, and kind of reflect on our responsibilities. So board members filled this out. There's a lot of comments written, so I think what we'll do is we'll hand it out and people can take it home and read it so they have time to process it, and then we'll put it on the agenda for next time, because it would be hard to have a conversation without being able to read all the feedback. So I'm going to pass them down this way and this way. Okay. I don't know how many I can always print another one. Tell me if there's not enough. Okay, and then we'll put it on for next time, unless a whole lot of people are going to be absent in July or something. We can discuss it in July at our next meeting. Does anyone else have other stuff for board forum?
I'm looking for my comments here. Are they here? Or did you just say they were so bad?
No, yours are in there. You filled it out online, so they're there.
Everybody did it online.
I know.
Because you may have to give me 15
Well,
minutes.
anyone can always add comments. After you read everybody else's, you can write comments that you didn't think of, and we can talk about them. So there's no harm
because I have
done
to
if you
talk
forgot to
about
put
mine.
something. Yeah. Well, Mike always has fun with this. Karen?
I just would like to make a comment about one of the public comments regarding the sports and spring break. And I know this
that's
is
what I wanted to do. Go ahead.
It's a perennial question, and it's a frustrating situation, to say the least. And I am the parent of, I know,
That's the one I wanted to say.
of 4 students who have all played spring sports, well, and fall, and some winter. And the spring break question, my knee-jerk reaction is to want to say, well, not everyone has the same, every school district has the same spring break, and therefore it's difficult to schedule around it. However, as the parent of spring athletes, I can tell you every single spring in lacrosse season, somebody cancels on us because it's their spring break and they don't have enough players to field a team. And that's extremely frustrating because we stayed home so that we could compete against somebody else during our spring break. And they, and I'll give you one of the culprits, West Morris Mendham has a tendency to be like, yeah, we just don't have enough people, we can't play, you guys. So I don't know what we could do, but maybe we could. It's just an interesting suggestion. She wasn't asking for the week off. Right. She was saying, is there a way to give a couple days kind of stacked. And maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but as I think about, reflecting back on my kids' experiences, more often than not, a couple times during the spring, you've got an opponent canceling on you because they don't have enough people to show up and play. And this is, by the way, a bigger problem with freshmen and JV than it is with varsity, because typically the varsity is kind of all in.
Yeah, and I think my comment that I was going to say that I forgot to before Heather left was similar to yours with the spring break. I think people have asked us to make a policy that says sports teams can't play at a certain time, and we can't because there's championship meets. Things happen. Every sport and every activity is different, has different requirements, and sometimes there is a big thing, and it happens to be not just at spring break, but winter break, you know what I mean? On holidays, there could be things on Thanksgiving, a weekend or whatever. So, but in terms of coaches having any ability to schedule games and try to avoid certain dates, and I think probably it is easier with freshmen or JV teams, you know what I mean? Maybe with scheduling, those types of things. But it's something to keep in mind, definitely. It could be a goal that coaches could try to, aim for. It might not be possible all the time to make one of the weekends a little bit longer. I don't know.
I think it has a lot to do with scheduling. I'm not sure it's about the coaches. I think it's when you go sit down at the conference planning.
Well, yeah, but I don't know exactly how the scheduling works.
Yeah.
But
It's done way in advance.
Right, and then you have to try to reschedule games, and it's difficult and
It's
stuff.
so far in advance.
And there's limitations. Some sports have more limits on their fields or facilities than others in terms of
Right,
finding
so
an alternate place to
if
have
you have
it.
your home games
Right.
that week, 'cause
Yeah.
you can have home games.
So anyway,
or-
it's definitely worth the discussion, I think.
It's just a lot of
with
teams
coaches,
to have
but-
to
yeah.
coordinate. So if you get, maybe one team will do it, then the other team will be like, wait a second.
Well,
Why
that's
do
why
they
it would
get
be
a
hard to
days
have a
off?
uniform policy.
I know the
about
track
it,
team's not getting off.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything for board forum? No? Okay, so we're up to adjournment. Would someone like to make a motion?
Good.
Mrs. Woldridge and Mrs. Korn. Thank you. All in favor?